The house was dead quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. No fridge, hum, no heater, click, nothing. My phone screen was the only light, and it was flashing the same warning over and over. Power restoration estimate unknown. And across the street, through the trees by the front gate, the HOA office was glowing like a lighthouse, bright, warm smug, while the rest of us sat in the dark. My name's Ethan Cole, and I've lived in Maple Ridge Estates long enough to know the rules aren't really rules until someone decides they don't like you. It's one of those clean, cookie-cutter neighborhoods outside Denver, trimmed lawns, matching mailboxes, and a homeowners association that loves the sound of its own paperwork. I'm a telecom field engineer, which is a fancy way of saying when things break I get called day or night, storms or holidays. I don't need electricity to watch Netflix. I need it because my gear has to charge, my laptop has to run, and sometimes my work keeps other people connected to 911. So 3 years ago, I did what any practical adult does. I installed a backup generator and a propane tank. A legit one, 500 gallons, permitted, inspected, tucked behind my fence where you couldn't see it unless you tried. And then Linda Parker tried. She showed up on a Tuesday like she'd been waiting all week for the moment. Clipboard perfect bob haircut, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown, the full Karen starter kit. "Ethan," she said, not smiling, already flipping pages, "we need to talk about your fuel storage situation." Fuel storage situation. Like I was running a black market refinery behind my shed. She held up a printed photo my backyard shot from an angle that made it obvious someone had gone out of their way to peek. The propane tank was circled in red marker like it was evidence in a courtroom. Homeowners Association. Code Section 12.4. Linda read, tapping her pen. Any exterior fuel container over 50 gallons requires board approval. You don't have approval. I stared at her. That tank's been there 3 years. Linda didn't blink. And now it's being addressed. She handed me a formal notice on HOA letterhead. 30 days to remove it. After that, $100 a day in fines. Then she added, like she was reading a grocery list, and your fence exceeds height by 6 inches. That's also a violation. I laughed once, short and sharp, because it was either that or say something that would end up in an email chain. That night I called Alex Chin, a lawyer I knew from a work project. He didn't sugarcoat it. If the bylaws say the board has discretion, they can make your life expensive, even if they're being ridiculous. I tried the reasonable route anyway. I submitted a request for approval, photos, specs, inspection records, everything. I paid the review fee because, of course, there was a fee. 2 weeks later, I got the answer. Rejected. Reason: safety risk. Secondary reason: neighborhood aesthetics. Aesthetics, like my propane tank was out front doing cartwheels. I called Linda. She picked up on the second ring like she'd been waiting. "The board's decision is final," she said. "You have 2 weeks until fines begin." I stood in my kitchen staring at the email on my laptop, and for the first time I felt that slow, ugly pressure in my chest. The one that says this isn't about the tank. This is about control. Still, I did the math. $100 a day adds up fast. Fighting it in court adds up even faster. And I'm not some billionaire with a vengeance budget. So I scheduled the removal. When the propane company guy showed up, he looked at me like I'd asked him to tow a brand new truck to the junkyard. "You sure about this? This setup's clean?" "Yeah," I said, voice flat. "The HOA wants it gone." He shook his head and did his job. The tank that made me feel prepared safe disappeared on a flatbed, and my generator without it became a fancy metal box that could run for a few hours and then shut down like a dying flashlight. For a couple days I tried to tell myself it was fine, that maybe I'd overdone it, that maybe Maple Ridge didn't need me acting like a prepper. Then I remembered something that didn't fit. Last winter we had a brief outage, maybe 2 hours. The entire neighborhood went dark, except the HOA office by the gate. That building stayed lit the whole time, like it had its own private grid. So I drove by slow just to look. Behind their building, partially hidden by some sad shrubs, was a diesel generator setup with a tank that made mine look modest. I checked the public records after that because when you're already annoyed, curiosity becomes fuel. Their tank was listed at 1,000 gallons, double mine. I went to the next homeowners association meeting. Those things are usually a snooze fest. 5 retirees arguing about mailbox paint. One guy asking about pool hours. Not that night. I walked in and dropped my folder on the table like I was done being polite. "Quick question," I said. My propane tank was labeled a safety risk. "So what do we call the HOA's 1,000-gallon diesel tank?" Linda's smile didn't reach her eyes. "That equipment serves the community." I blinked. "How?" "It powers critical operations," she said, crisp and smug. "Communications, security administration." I leaned in. "So your office needs power, but my house doesn't." Linda's jaw tightened. "Your personal convenience is not the board's responsibility." "Personal convenience. Sure. Tell that to my job when cell towers go down." A guy on the board. George Benton Glass's nervous energy shifted in his chair. "Linda, he has a point. The rule should be consistent." Linda snapped her head toward him. "Discussion is closed." And that was the moment I realized the process wasn't broken. It was working exactly how she wanted. If you didn't have a title and a clipboard, your voice didn't count. I left that meeting angry but also tired, the kind of tired that makes you consider surrendering just to get your life back. I didn't spiral into some dramatic identity crisis. I just looked at my calendar, my bills, my job schedule, and thought, maybe I should stop poking the bear. Then the bear caught fire. A spring storm rolled in hard wind, heavy snow that shouldn't have been happening that late, trees snapping like toothpicks. At 6:47 p.m. the power cut out. 1 second the lights were on, the next second everything went black. I fired up my generator out of habit. It ran smooth, for a while. Then a few hours later it sputtered and died, because I didn't have the tank anymore. The next morning the utility company estimated restoration could take up to 2 weeks. 2 weeks in the dark. 2 weeks of food spoiling pipes, freezing phones, dying people panicking. Neighbors started leaving. The couple 2 doors down packed their baby and drove to her mom's place. A guy on my street who needed a medical device ended up in a hotel lobby because it had outlets. Every driveway looked like a slow evacuation. And the HOA office, still lit. I drove past it at night, and the glow coming from those windows felt like a personal insult. I could practically hear Linda in there sipping coffee, typing emails about community resilience. She actually sent one too, a cheery blast to everyone: "Please remain calm and follow Homeowners Association guidelines during the outage." I read it in my car, lit by my phone, and I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. That's when my coworker, Maya Brooks, called. I'd mentioned the situation earlier mostly as a rant. She didn't laugh. "Ethan," she said, "you have receipts. This is news." "I'm not trying to be a headline," I told her. "Then stop trying," she said. "Just tell the truth. Let them explain why their diesel tank is community safety, but yours was a risk." So I emailed a local reporter, Sarah Klein. Short, clean, no drama, just facts, documents, photos, the rejection, notice the bylaw section, and the public listing of the HOA's tank size. Sarah replied within an hour. 2 days later, she showed up with a camera crew. She filmed my dark house, my empty backyard, where the propane tank used to be my generator, sitting there useless like a sculpture. Then she drove to the HOA office and pointed the camera right at their bright windows. When Linda stepped outside, Sarah hit her with the simplest question in the world. Why are residents prohibited from fuel storage over 50 gallons, while the Homeowners Association maintains a 1,000-gallon diesel tank? Linda's face went tight. "This is private property." Sarah didn't move. "It's funded by homeowner dues." Linda reached for the door. "You're harassing us." And then she did the thing Karen types always do when they don't have a real answer. She ended it with a slam, right in front of the camera, like the door could shut the truth out. That clip ran on the evening news. It hit social media. It hit every neighborhood group chat like a match. And here's the part that still makes me smirk, not because I won, but because the universe has a sense of timing. On the 13th night of the outage, I drove by the HOA office again. Their windows were dimmer than usual, like they were rationing. I slowed down at the gate, just watching. Then lights out. The entire building went dark in one sudden blink. No hum, no glow, nothing. Their generator stopped. Their critical operations vanished. They'd run out of diesel. I took one photo and posted one sentence. Looks like someone else should have planned ahead. The next morning, there was an emergency homeowners association meeting. Standing room only. People who'd never attended anything in their lives were suddenly experts in bylaws. Linda tried to open with a speech, something about unprecedented conditions and shared sacrifice. She didn't get far. A woman in the front cut her off. Shared. You had power the whole time until you didn't. A guy near the back shouted, "You fined people for trash cans but couldn't keep your own fuel stocked." Linda tried to regain control. "Please, one at a time." George Benton stood up, voice shaking but loud enough. "I'm motioning for an immediate review of enforcement policies and a suspension of all fines related to emergency preparedness equipment until that review is complete." And he swallowed, then said it a vote of no confidence in the current board chair. The room went silent for half a second, then exploded. Linda's head whipped around, eyes wide. "That is not—" "It is," George said, and he looked at the crowd, not at her. "We vote." They did. And when the count came in, Linda Parker sat there staring at the numbers like they were written in another language. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. George picked up the gavel hand, steadier now. Motion passes. Linda stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. She gathered her papers in sharp, angry movements like the paper had betrayed her and walked out, shoulders stiff, face red, not looking at anyone. No applause, no victory lap. Just a door closing behind her, this time not on the truth, but on her power. Lesson rules don't protect a community when they're only used to protect the people in charge.